Hey everyone! Today we're diving into a really important lesson where we'll be learning how to draw and shade the ear using blue ink pens. It's a great exercise to practice tonal variation and control, and it also helps develop a keen eye for light and shadow. The materials we'll need are pretty straightforward but essential. 2 blue ink pens in different shades, a white sheet of paper to support your hand while working, and a tissue to clean off any excess ink. The ear, being one of the most detailed features of the face, offers a wide range of tonal values, from deep dark shadows to soft light areas that almost approach white. This makes it an excellent subject for practicing ink shading techniques. The first thing I do is outline the ear carefully, ensuring that I get the shape and proportions right. This is crucial because once the shading starts, it's much harder to correct any mistakes in the outline. Once the outline is done, I begin with the dark areas. These are the spots that will guide the placement of the light parts, so I work slowly and steadily, layering ink in thin strokes to gradually build up depth. It's important to avoid pressing too hard or laying down too much ink at once, as this can clog up the paper's surface, making it hard to add lighter tones later. I typically focus on the 4 darkest areas of the ear, as they provide the foundational shadows. I always work in different directions with my strokes to soften the lines and fill the paper's pores evenly. Once the dark areas are established, I move on to the light regions. I use the lighter ink pen for these parts, blending them into the darker areas to create smooth transitions. The key here is to layer the ink, starting from the dark and gradually moving to the light tones, allowing them to mix and create natural gradients. This process is slow and methodical, but it's how you achieve realistic shading. Once all the light areas are done, I go back to the darker spots to emphasize them again. Sometimes the darker ink pen might wear out a bit, allowing me to apply more ink quickly and easily. I use this to redefine the darkest parts and bring more depth to the drawing. One thing to note is that I never work in just one area at a time. I always move between different parts of the drawing, working on various sections simultaneously. This way, I can assess the overall balance of the tones and adjust as I go. It prevents one part from becoming too dark or light, as I'm always checking how the tones compare to each other. Another tip is to constantly check your outline before you start shading. Once you start applying ink, it's much harder to fix mistakes, and ink is notoriously difficult to erase once it's on the paper. If you haven't corrected the outline beforehand, any errors will likely remain. When it comes to lighting, it's important to preserve the brightest highlights. I try to leave them untouched by ink or apply a very light layer of ink around them. This will make the highlights pop and give the drawing a realistic feel. You also want to ensure that you maintain a balance between light and dark, so it's essential to pay attention to how the tones interact with each other as you work. As you move forward with this technique, consider the paper quality. Smooth paper allows for more control over ink application, while rough paper can create unwanted texture that disrupts the smoothness of your shading. Also, using ink on a large-scale drawing might not work as effectively as on smaller, more controlled spaces, so it's essential to work within a size that suits ink techniques. Finally, remember that the process of shading isn't about finishing one area at a time. It's about creating layers of tonal contrast, gradually building up the depth and texture. You should always check back on your drawing as you go, making sure that you're not overdarkening any areas or losing important highlights. With time and practice, you'll get a better feel for how to layer the ink and balance the different tones effectively. I really hope you found today's lesson useful. If you enjoyed the video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment with your thoughts or any questions you may have. And of course, feel free to share any ideas for future videos. Bye.